Hello, welcome along to episode 197 of Adventures in Pop. And in this episode, I want to talk about some of the artists, bands, stars who have over the years influenced me the most. It's coming to the end of the year, and so as a bit of a Black Friday, Black December, Black Christmas special for you, because I'm obviously in a very chirpy and generous mood, not at all humbug, of course. I've noticed that quite a lot of people post about the music they love, the music they hate, and all that kind of stuff. And I've certainly talked a little bit about some of the stars that I really love, some of the music I really love, but I've never actually done the list. I've never done the list of those. I don't know if it's the same list actually. Those artists I think are the best ever, or whether it's a slightly different list from those that really influenced me, had a real impact. It is a different list, isn't it? And it's the latter that I'm talking about here. Now, look, I don't think we've got time to go through 10 artists because obviously I've got too much to say about all of them. So we'll just take five this time round and we'll do the other five next time. And not only that, I'm so worried I'm going to offend somebody that I'm not doing a 10 down to one. I don't think I can. That would just be, it would be torture. So I've put them in rather strict alphabetical order, if you don't mind, and we'll start with A and we'll work along until eventually we'll get to S, according to this. So sit tight. The 10 bands, artists who influenced me the most, the first five, here they come. Well, A for Anita Baker. She's first on this list. Okay, it's 1986, and like so much of the rest of the world, suddenly this song and then very shortly afterwards album kind of appear out of the ether. The song was Sweet Love, the album Rapture, and this unbelievable voice that seemed to be attached to this kind of very mellifluous sounding and very kind of, she just had everything. She looked great. She sounded absolutely wonderful, and she had a bag full of really good songs. And that album Rapture, I mean, there isn't a bad track on there. And obviously that's the album that made her, and boy did it make her. I remember, back at the time, I think there was a story. It might not even be a true story, but it's a good story. I think it was Diana Ross who went into a record shop somewhere in America and said, "I need to spend a weekend with that voice." And she was astonishing. Right, okay, Anita Baker. I went to see her a couple of times in concert. First time was gobsmackingly awesome, and really, she was really special. I think in terms of just the the tone of her vocals and her range and all of that stuff, and the fact that she wrote some of the best songs of her collection. Second time I went to see her, it was a bit disappointing. It has sort of turned into like a papal visit. It was just people running to the front to touch her, and she would reach out and touch them, and it was just a lot of touching. It was a real loving, and I just, in the end, the loving took over, and I was thinking, are you gonna sing another song soon? Or she would spend the whole thing with singing, but the microphone out here for the audience, which actually is one of the things I most hate about going to any gig. I don't want to hear the audience sing the song. I've paid to hear you sing the song. So I think the second time I went to see her, her repertoire hadn't changed. She was still singing the same set of songs, mostly the songs from Rapture. It was a good few years later, and she spent most of the concert, as I say, reaching out and being touched and adored. So less happy. There were some really good albums, not just Rapture. So go check out Anita Baker. If you don't already know her, then you should. Okay, second one up, someone I don't think anyone's going to be surprised about, and I think you probably do know him, Elton John. E for Elton. Elton John. He's just been there the whole time, huge influence. He writes songs with the piano. That's what I was doing. He came from pretty much the same part of London, and all that kind of stuff. So big connection with Elton John. And certainly in the 70s, mid 70s, when I was thinking about writing songs, I was pretty I was pretty in awe of some of those big Elton John songs in the mid 70s. Those songs like "Someone Saved My Life Tonight" and "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," and those big classics that were quite complex songs. I was always really, yes, I was learning from them really, and stuff like and Tiny Dancer, which I'd always loved from the very beginning. So Elton John, no surprise, he's second on my list. Third on my list of artists who have influenced me the most ever in the world ever, Frank Ocean. F for Frank. Frank Ocean, goodness, I saw him. It was a bit random. I watched him probably on YouTube, and he had just, I think, appeared on a late night show in America. He'd done like guest artist. Was proud to present Mr. Frank Ocean. It was a big Saturday night TV show, and Frank Ocean was on with an orchestra. So so already it was quite interesting. He was this black guy with a bandana kind of round his forehead, and an orchestra, and he was singing "Bad Religion," which is a fantastic track. I just was, yes, I was overwhelmed actually, and I was in love with him from that moment onwards. And then, when he's only made kind of like the two official albums, and when they came out, both of them were I just thought were fantastic from beginning to end. And I've seen him twice in concert as well. Once was in Brixton, I think it was 2013, something like that, much rawer. And then once later, I think after Blonde had come out, and that was in an open air festival in East London, and wasn't actually as good. I mean, the Brixton gig was amazing, really amazing, and full of people who, even in that early stage, full of people who knew the words of every single song that he sang on the stage, which was crazy. It was lovely. So Frank Ocean, I don't know what's coming next for Frank, but I would say, maybe the most talented kind of star to emerge in this century. There may be one other rival to that, and we'll get to that person next time. Fourth on my list is George Michael. George Michael, what can we say? Oh, goodness. I still miss him. I still go back to particularly, I guess, older, and Listen Without Prejudice. Listen Without Prejudice and older. Those are the two albums. I have trouble sometimes, choosing between them. To me, Faith was okay, but nothing like had nothing like the depth of, or the songwriting even of those next two albums. Again, not Mr. Prolific, was he, really? When you look back and you think, actually, it all boils down to two albums. But I did see him in concert a few times, and he was always fantastically, just really focusing just on his singing, which I think he's kind of overlooked, underrated, as a pure singer. Forget the songwriting, forget all the showmanship. Just as a singer, he was really terrific. And his concerts were always really good. And he just was a nice guy. And I think he had a bit of a tough time dealing with being so famous and sometimes so lonely, I think. And, of course he should have come out much earlier than getting arrested and all the rest of it. It would have helped. But that was then. So, George, much missed. Michael, number 4 on my list, but there's no order. I'm doing in alphabetical order. Let me just remind you. And the last one up today, last one I'm going to talk about today, Kate Bush, K for Kate. Gosh, I think my love for Kate has basically grown as her career has advanced. I was a bit sort of, quite impressed, but a bit like, when Wuthering Heights came out and when The Kick Inside came out. I did hear the album quite a lot. I think my older sister had the album, and it was really interesting. But I wouldn't say I loved her. And then, you know, as things went along, I did like some of the second album. Um, the Dreaming did completely leave me behind. But then, you know, well, I think before that was Never Forever, which I loved. I really did love that. It was when I was at university. Then was the Dreaming. And then, you know, when Hounds of Love came, then I would say at that stage I was beginning to think, this woman is extraordinary. This, you know, what have we got here? Hounds of Love, and you know, a few albums that followed it, I still listen to and I love. And interestingly, and I don't want to, you know, steal my own thunder, but I was thinking about this the other day. It's possible that my favourite Kate Bush album, in the whole of her big canon, is actually Ariel, which came out in 2004. You might correct me and say 2005, but one of those, you know, earlier this century. And double album, love it to bits. Love lots of it. It's so good. We've talked about, you know, Anita Baker, Elton John, Frank Ocean, George Michael, Kate Bush. We've got, well, the rest of the alphabet to do next time. But these are the artists that have influenced me, in the way they put songs together, in the way they do their artistry, the performance of the songs, and in most cases, you know, these are people who have a big hand in the writing of the songs, and I think that's actually true all the way through my list. My list is artists and bands who, you know, who are kind of in control, have been in control of their canon work. It is about them, and everlasting, I would say. That's it for me this time. Come back for the other five. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for spending your time. Do subscribe if you like this kind of thing. I do. And I would subscribe, but I can't subscribe to me. That's silly. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.